Welcome to the mystic Astrozen, where your soul meets the stars and your truth is never too deep. If you've been feeling misunderstood, tested, or quietly observed lately, especially if you're a Scorpio, this message has found you for a reason. You didn't stumble upon this video by accident. What you're about to hear is not just guidance, it's a mirror. A mirror that will reflect the silent trials you've been facing and help you reclaim your power with clarity, discernment, and emotional sovereignty. Because not every test is loud. Some of them come wrapped in ordinary conversations, familiar faces, and quiet betrayals. Stay with me. This message will reveal why your loyalty has been under spiritual fire and what you must do next to protect what's sacred. There comes a moment in every Scorpio's journey when silence grows louder than any word, and questions come dressed as curiosity, but carry the weight of suspicion. Lately, have you noticed someone asking you things that feel oddly rehearsed, like they already expect a specific answer? Perhaps it's in the way their eyes narrow slightly, or how their tone lingers on certain words, waiting for you to slip. These aren't conversations, they're quiet investigations. Not because you've done anything wrong, but because your presence, your depth, your emotional truth. It makes people uneasy. They can't understand how you carry so much power while staying so composed. So they test you, not always maliciously, but instinctively, seeking proof that their fears about you are valid. And here's the truth they don't want you to know. It's not you they're afraid of, it's what you represent. You are the mirror they avoid, the silence that reveals their own noise. Right now, you're being observed more than you're being heard. People who once felt close are now collecting data, not because they want to connect, but because they want to confirm a story they've already told themselves about who you are. This is the test you didn't see coming, not of your honesty, but of your loyalty. And make no mistake, Scorpio, this test has nothing to do with whether or not you're trustworthy. It's about whether you'll betray yourself just to prove something to people who were never listening in the first place. So before you answer their questions, before you open up that guarded part of yourself, ask this instead. Does this person truly see me? Or are they just looking for evidence? To support their own fear? Because not every ear deserves your truth, and not every voice is asking from a place of love. In this quiet storm of perception and projection, the most powerful thing you can do is stay rooted in your own clarity. Don't rush to defend your name. Don't perform your loyalty. Let your energy speak. Let your silence protect you. And let the truth be your armor. This is not a time to prove yourself. It is a time to preserve yourself. And if that means being misunderstood for a season, so be it, because your loyalty is sacred and it's not meant to be tested, it's meant to be earned. There's a difference between someone trying to understand you and someone trying to analyze you, and lately, Scorpio, the line has blurred. What once felt like safe conversations now feel more like subtle interrogations. The people around you might smile, might pretend their interest is genuine, but your intuition is sensing otherwise. You can feel the weight behind their words, the calculations behind their kindness, and it's starting to wear on your spirit. Why? Because your truth is not being welcomed, it's being weighed. And when people weigh your truth rather than receive it, what they're really doing is searching for evidence that fits a story they already believe. You, Scorpio, with your emotional depth and loyalty that runs deeper than most people can comprehend, are not meant to constantly explain or defend yourself. But this season, it seems like people are turning your silence into suspicion, your strength into threat, your honesty into a weapon they twist. And that's when you realize, this isn't about you being misunderstood. This is about others not being ready to handle someone as real and as raw as you. They want access to your soul, but they don't want the responsibility of honoring it. They want your loyalty, but not the accountability that comes with earning it. And here's where the trap is set. If you start changing yourself just to make them comfortable, you begin betraying the very essence that makes you powerful. This video is not just a warning, it's a call to clarity. You're not being dramatic, paranoid, or overly cautious. You're picking up on something real, a subtle shift in the way you're being seen and spoken to. And if you ignore that, you risk exposing the sacred parts of yourself to people who aren't equipped to hold them with care. The truth is, Scorpio, your energy has always been magnetic, but that magnetism also draws in people who want to possess what they don't understand. That's why discernment isn't just a tool for you right now. It's a form of spiritual survival. As we go deeper in this message, we're going to explore how to protect your energy, how to navigate these hidden tests, and how to reclaim your emotional sovereignty. You don't owe anyone access to your inner world. You owe yourself the peace that comes from being selective, sacred, and sovereign. Stay with me, because what you're about to discover could change the way you see everything and everyone around you. Right now, Scorpio, you are being silently evaluated, and not in the way that builds trust or connection. There's a quiet audit happening in the background of your interactions. Every word you say, every pause you take, every glance, every hesitation, it's being filed away by someone who's not trying to understand your truth but to validate their own internal doubts. They may not even be aware they're doing it. Their questions might seem casual, even kind. But to you, they feel loaded. They feel off. Because they are. You see, people who live in fear often look for proof to justify that fear. And because your energy is intense, unwavering, and emotionally precise, it can make others feel exposed without you even trying. So they study you not to get closer, but to protect themselves from what they assume you might reveal. They're not really listening to you. They're listening for a mistake. They're not asking questions to learn, they're asking to trap. And here's the hardest part. It often comes from people you've trusted. Friends, partners, even family. People who once held space for your truth now seem eager to dissect it. They observe you like you're a puzzle they need to solve, or worse, a threat they need to neutralize. And you feel it, don't you? That strange tension when you share something vulnerable, and it doesn't land right. The delay in their response. The way the energy shifts. That's your intuition warning you you're not paranoid, you're perceptive. This invisible audit is not about truth, it's about control. They want to pin you down, define you, label you, because if they can name your complexity, they don't have to face their own. But Scorpio, you are not meant to be decoded like a riddle. You are not a case to be solved or a mystery to be feared. You are a mirror, and mirrors often make people uncomfortable when they're not ready to see themselves clearly. So don't internalize their suspicions. Don't shrink to make them feel safe. Recognize that some people are uncomfortable with what they can't control, and your depth is uncontrollable by design. What you're feeling is real. You are being observed more than understood. But that doesn't mean you need to explain yourself. It means you need to protect yourself. Choose silence where once you offered explanation. Choose stillness where once you offered proof. And most importantly, choose yourself, even if it means walking away from those who were never truly listening. This invisible audit is not your test, it's theirs. And they're showing you exactly who they are, believe them. For someone like you, Scorpio, whose emotions run deep and loyalty flows like a hidden current beneath still waters, sharing isn't something you do lightly. But when you do open up, it's real. It's raw. It's intimate. And that's exactly why it must be guarded. Because not everyone who leans in to listen deserves to hear what's buried beneath your surface. In fact, the danger right now isn't just in being misunderstood, it's in being misused. When you reveal too much to the wrong person, your truth doesn't just get lost, it gets twisted. It gets recycled into rumors, distorted into drama, or worse, weaponized against you. And what hurts the most is that it doesn't always come from enemies. Sometimes it's the people you thought you could trust, the ones who once held your story with care, who now echo it with suspicion or share it without context. That betrayal can shake your foundation. But here's what you need to remember. Your vulnerability is a sacred offering, not a public performance. Just because someone asks doesn't mean they're ready to receive. And just because someone listens doesn't mean they'll honor what they hear. Some people crave access not to support you, but to feel powerful in proximity to your depth. And Scorpio, you cannot afford to give your sacred energy away as if it were common. Your soul is not casual. Your truth is not currency. And when you overexpose yourself, you give others the power to write your story in ink you never approved. That's not strength, that's sacrifice, and not the holy kind. You must learn the art of sacred silence not as a defense mechanism, but as a spiritual filter. Ask yourself, does this person have the emotional capacity to hold what I'm about to share? If the answer is even slightly uncertain, that's your cue to pause, to withhold, to protect. Silence is not the absence of connection. It's the preservation of what matters. And in a world where everyone wants to know, very few are prepared to honor. So let them call you mysterious. Let them label you distant. What they don't understand is that your silence isn't empty. It's full of discernment. And that discernment is your shield. The more you guard your truth, the more you align with your own power. The right people will never demand your depths. They will earn them. Until then, stay still. Stay sacred. Because the danger of overexposure isn't just being hurt. It's being seen by the wrong eyes, in the wrong moment, for the wrong reasons. And you deserve better than that. There's a sacred shift that happens the moment you realize not everyone deserves access to you. Scorpio, you are naturally magnetic. People feel drawn to your mystery, your emotional depth, your intense presence. But with that magnetism comes responsibility, to be selective, to be intentional, to be protective of your inner world. You may have been taught that loyalty means full transparency, that love means constant availability, or that intimacy means revealing every layer of yourself. But that's not truth, it's conditioning. Real power lies in discretion. It lies in your ability to discern who is truly safe and who is merely curious. Because curiosity is not the same as care. Some people want to see your scars not to understand your strength, but to poke at your pain. Others want your story so they can reshape it to fit their narrative. That's why selective intimacy is not cold, it's sacred. You're not withholding because you don't feel. You're withholding because you feel deeply, and that depth deserves to be honored. Ask yourself, has this person earned the right to hear my truth? Have they shown up consistently, held space without judgment, and mirrored back love instead of fear? Or are they just passing through, seeking a piece of your soul to satisfy their curiosity before they move on? The truth is, Scorpio, your energy is potent, and potency can be intoxicating to those who don't know how to handle it. That's why they try to draw you out, not to connect, but to consume. But you are not here to be consumed. You are here to be cherished. You are not a confessional booth for the emotionally immature. You are not a spectacle. You are a sanctuary. And sanctuaries require boundaries. So let them call you distant, private, or hard to read. Those labels are their projections, not your reality. In fact, the right people will never force you to open up. They'll wait. They'll earn it. They'll treat your story like sacred ground. And when you feel that safety, you'll know. Until then, it's not only okay to keep your cards close, it's essential. Because in a world that often trades vulnerability for entertainment, your ability to protect your soul is not just wise, it's revolutionary. So choose wisely, speak rarely, and when you do let someone in, Make sure they've shown you, through actions, not words, that they can be trusted with the fire you carry inside. Selective intimacy is not about fear. It's about reverence. And Scorpio, your truth is far too precious to be handed to someone who hasn't proven they'll honor it. Let your silence be your filter. Let your boundaries be your compass. And let your loyalty be a reward, not an expectation. There comes a time when your greatest gift, your loyalty, becomes the very thing others try to use against you. Scorpio, you were born with a heart that remembers promises, that holds on to bonds long after they've frayed. You are the one who stays, who fights, who protects. But what happens when that loyalty is twisted into a leash? When others begin to expect your silence, your forgiveness, your presence, not as a privilege, but as a right. That's the moment loyalty turns from sacred devotion into silent suffering. It's subtle at first. You start to feel guilty for needing space. You're told that setting boundaries is cold or harsh. You're made to believe that if you truly cared, you would always explain, always forgive, always stay. But loyalty isn't about self-betrayal. And love isn't measured by how much you endure. If someone needs you to abandon yourself in order to prove your commitment to them, that's not love. That's manipulation. Some people don't want your truth. They want your compliance. They want your energy, your secrets, your emotional presence, but only on their terms. And when you begin to pull back, they don't ask what's wrong, they accuse. You've changed. You're being secretive. Why are you so distant? Not because they miss you, but because they've lost control of the version of you they once benefited from. Scorpio, don't let that shake you. Don't mistake emotional blackmail for connection. Your loyalty was never meant to be transactional. It's a sacred force meant to uplift, not entrap. And the moment someone uses your loyalty as a weapon, to silence you, to shame you, to keep you in cycles that drain your soul, you must remember, being devoted does not mean being blind. You are allowed to walk away from people who treat your presence as an obligation instead of a blessing. You are allowed to choose yourself, even if it disappoints them. You are not here to convince anyone of your worth, nor are you responsible for their discomfort when your growth no longer benefits their comfort zone. True loyalty begins with you. It means refusing to remain in spaces that diminish your spirit. It means being honest with yourself, even if it means being misunderstood by others. And it means reclaiming your energy from those who only honored your devotion when it served their needs. Scorpio, your loyalty is not a weakness, it's a fire. But not everyone is worthy of standing in its warmth. Let this be your awakening. You don't have to prove your love through silence. You don't have to prove your worth by staying. You only have to remember this. Your loyalty is sacred, and sacred things should never be weaponized. There's a deeper kind of loyalty, Scorpio, one that most people overlook. It's not about standing by someone else no matter what. It's about standing by yourself, even when that means walking alone. Self-loyalty is not selfish. It's spiritual. It's the unwavering commitment to honor your truth, protect your energy, and uphold your worth in a world that constantly tries to convince you otherwise. For too long, you may have confused being loyal with being available, or being generous with being endlessly giving. But now you're awakening to a more sacred understanding, that you cannot be loyal to others in any meaningful way if you are disloyal to your own soul. And that's where emotional sovereignty begins. It's the recognition that your peace is not up for negotiation, that your voice matters even when it trembles, that your presence is not something to be bartered for. Acceptance. Maybe you've found yourself pouring into people who only take. Maybe you've kept showing up for situations that have long stopped serving your growth. Or maybe you've quieted your intuition just to keep the harmony around you from crumbling. But Scorpio, What if that harmony was never real to begin with? What if it only existed because you were the one holding everything together at the expense of your own alignment? It's time to return home to yourself. To make decisions that reflect your inner knowing, not your outer pressure. To say yes only when your soul agrees, not just when your loyalty is expected. This isn't abandonment, it's alignment. You are not turning your back on anyone. You are turning toward your truth. And in doing so, you teach others how to honor you by the way you honor yourself. Begin with simple acts. Decline the conversation that drains you. Walk away from the dynamic that confuses you. Pause before you explain yourself to someone who has no intention of hearing. And when you feel guilty for choosing yourself, breathe. That guilt is just the residue of an old pattern. You don't owe your discomfort to anyone's comfort. You don't owe your energy to those who have proven they will misuse it. Loyalty isn't about how much of yourself you give away. It's about how deeply you stay rooted in who you are. Scorpio, this is your turning point. When you stop chasing validation and start living in your own vibration. When you stop offering your heart to anyone who knocks and start inviting only those who come with reverence. You were never meant to be understood by everyone. You were meant to be deeply aligned with yourself. So protect your rhythm, defend your peace, and above all stay loyal to the one person who has carried you through every shadow and every storm. You. There's a quiet shift happening, Scorpio. You may not be able to explain it yet, but deep down you know something is different. Conversations feel thinner. The air around certain people feels heavier. The invitations you used to accept without hesitation now come with a pause. That pause is not fear, it's clarity. It's the universe whispering that the test you've been in is nearing its end. And before every cycle closes, there are signs, subtle, but powerful. One of the first is detachment. Not the cold, numb kind, but the peaceful kind that comes when your spirit decides it's done begging to be seen. You stop explaining. You stop reacting. You stop offering pieces of yourself just to prove you care. Instead, you observe. You listen, you breathe. And without any dramatic confrontation, people begin to fall away. The conversation stopped not because of conflict, but because your silence spoke louder than your words ever could. That's a sign. Another one. Unexpected truths begin to surface, not through effort, but through divine timing. You overhear something. A message is forwarded to you. A pattern repeats itself so clearly that it can no longer be ignored. These aren't coincidences. They're confirmations. You're no longer chasing clarity. Clarity is finding you. Then there's the moment you realize that your energy no longer feels drained after certain interactions. You're lighter, calmer, more grounded. Why? Because you stopped handing over your power to be processed and judged by people who were never meant to hold it. The storm within you settles not because the world has changed, but because you have. You've stopped participating in your own depletion. And in doing so, you've passed the test. This season wasn't about proving your loyalty. It was about proving your alignment. The universe wanted to see if you would choose yourself, even when doing so meant disappointing others. And you did. So now the veil lifts. People who were never for you are quietly exiting. Doors that felt sealed shut are beginning to creak open. You feel more like yourself, not the version you molded to fit expectations, but the one that existed before the performance. That's how you know the test is almost over. But remember, endings come with echoes. You may still hear the voice of guilt. You may still feel the urge to explain. Resist it. Let what wants to leave, leave. Let what wants to be silent, stay silent. Your job now is to maintain the standard you just set for yourself. This new clarity, this new peace, it's not fragile, it's earned. You don't owe anyone access just because you once gave it. You don't owe anyone answers just because they demand them. You owe yourself truth. Scorpio, Trust what you're sensing. This season of testing is fading. What's coming next will require even more discernment but far less explanation. Let go of the noise. You've already heard everything you needed to know. For too long, Scorpio, the world has taught you that loyalty must be seen to be believed, that it must be spoken, proven, performed. But that is not loyalty. That is theater. True loyalty is quiet. It's sacred. It doesn't need validation because it's not seeking approval, it's rooted in alignment. And now you're being called to redefine what loyalty truly means for you. It's not about staying in places that dim your light. It's not about defending people who disrespect your boundaries. And it's certainly not about abandoning yourself just to keep the peace. Loyalty at its core is devotion. But not blind devotion. It's conscious, intentional, and wise. It's choosing to remain faithful to your values even when they make others uncomfortable. It's showing up for yourself the way you've shown up for everyone else. And it's knowing when to walk away, not out of bitterness, but out of reverence for your own soul. Some may call you disloyal because you no longer share everything with them, because you no longer respond to manipulation with softness, because you've learned to say no without guilt. But that's not disloyalty. That's evolution. That's clarity. That's emotional maturity. Real loyalty isn't reactive, it's reflective. It's seen in the choices you make when no one is watching, in how you treat yourself after being hurt, in the way you protect what's sacred, even if it means being misunderstood. Scorpio, your loyalty is a force. It's not something you give away freely. It's something you honor. And those who deserve it will never ask you to shrink to maintain it. They will never weaponize your silence or your boundaries. They will meet you with the same depth, the same care, the same integrity. So stop feeling guilty for no longer performing loyalty for people who only valued it when it was convenient. Start celebrating the ways in which you've stayed true to yourself. When you chose solitude over fake connection. When you walked away instead of betraying your own truth. When you stood in your silence and let it speak for you. That's real loyalty. Not the kind that pleases everyone, but the kind that preserves your soul. And now, Scorpio, you get to rebuild from this place of truth. You get to choose relationships where loyalty is mutual, not manipulated, where your depth is cherished, not feared, where your silence is understood, not criticized, where you no longer have to prove anything to anyone because your presence is the proof. This is your new standard. And once you've tasted the peace that comes from being loyal to yourself, you'll never trade it for the chaos of being loyal to someone else's illusion. So let this be the beginning of a deeper devotion, not to them, to you, because that's where true loyalty begins and where it always belongs. Scorpio, you've walked through fire to get here. Not the kind that burns the skin, but the quiet internal blaze that scorches illusions, reveals truth, and tests the soul. You've been watched, questioned, misunderstood. You've given too much. Stayed too long, explained yourself to people who were never really listening. But now you see that not every question deserves an answer, that not every silence needs to be filled, that not every connection is sacred just because it's familiar. What you've endured wasn't just an emotional trial, it was a spiritual initiation, one that taught you how to protect what's sacred, your energy, your voice, your heart. You're no longer in a season of proving, you're in a season of preserving. Preserving your truth from manipulation, preserving your peace from chaos, preserving your loyalty for those who will treasure it, not test it. And as you rise into this new clarity, take a moment to breathe in what you've reclaimed. Your emotional sovereignty, your right to say no without guilt, your power to withdraw without explanation, your freedom to protect your depth like a sacred flame. That's not coldness, that's wisdom. So ask yourself now, honestly and tenderly, who have I been loyal to at the cost of myself? Where have I silenced my needs just to maintain a connection? What part of me is still seeking permission to honor my intuition? And more importantly, what would it feel like to fully belong to myself? Let those questions settle. Let them guide your next choices. Because from this point on, Scorpio, you are no longer a participant in emotional games disguised as love. You are no longer explaining your silence to people who only hear noise. You are no longer leaking your light into hands that don't know how to hold it. You are becoming sacred ground. And sacred ground does not entertain trespassers. Protect your space like a temple. Guard your spirit like treasure. Offer your loyalty like a prayer. Never casually, always consciously. The ones who are meant to walk beside you will never demand your energy. They will match it. Until then, let your silence do the sorting. Let your discernment do the talking. And let your loyalty flow inward first, like a river returning to its source. You are not losing people, you are losing distortion. You are not closing off, you are clearing space for what is real. And in that space, something holy is waiting to meet you. Something that doesn't need to test you to trust you. Something that knows your heart was never meant to be a trial. It was always meant to be a sanctuary. And now, finally, it is. Scorpio, you've reached the edge of a transformation, and what comes next depends on what you choose to let go. But what if I told you this test wasn't the end? What if something or someone is still watching you, waiting for one final response before your breakthrough is unlocked? In our next message, we'll uncover a hidden influence surrounding your energy and the strange synchronicities that have been building around your name. You won't want to miss it. So subscribe to the Mystic Astrozen, turn on notifications, and prepare for what's coming. The universe is not done speaking to you. It's just beginning to reveal what was always hidden in plain sight.